3 bone-chilling hitchhiking tales that haunt you at midnight forever. The night was starless, cloaked in thick fog, as if the world was holding its breath. In the shadows of a deserted highway, 3 hitchhikers faced the unknown. Each came with their own haunting story, each a whisper of caution woven into the cold night air. What they encountered would chill the marrow in your bones and linger long after midnight. One evening, a young man named Eric found himself stranded after a truck broke down on an isolated road. As he stumbled along the gravel shoulder, a battered pickup rumbled into view. Inside, the driver wore an unsettling grin, his eyes shining like hungry coals. "Hop in, buddy," he urged, and despite a deep chill crawling up Eric's spine, he complied. As they drove further into the night, the driver whispered tales that sent shivers racing down Eric's back, of those who vanished without a trace, swallowed by a black hole of ambition and greed. It was then that Eric noticed a bundle wrapped in a tarp bedded down in the truck's bed. He felt his palms sweat, heart pounding, as unshakable dread blossomed like a cold bloom in his chest. A few miles down the road, the truck came to a jolting stop. "This is where you get out," the driver said, his smile fading into something far more sinister. With the weight of fear pressing on his shoulders, Eric leapt from the truck, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He could hear the driver laughing, a sound that echoed like a grave warning against the encroaching darkness. He ran. When he found a diner flickering in the distance, relief washed over him like a warm blanket. But just as he pushed the door open, the diner fell silent, all eyes landing on him. A waitress whispered, "You shouldn't have gotten in that truck." Her words hung heavy, like a storm cloud threatening to burst. The crowd murmured, faces pale, haunted by their own brush with the darkness of that road. "Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Eric stood there, heart still racing, his thoughts drifted back to that driver's grin. Could it have been the same guy who had taken the last hitchhiker who never made it to the diner? The hair on his neck prickled, knowing he wasn't just lucky, but haunted by fate. And the thought of stepping back into that night, to face the things that lingered there, loomed just as ominously as the fog that still clung to the roadside. What would he do if he met that driver again, on an even darker night? The diner was an old relic, its flickering neon sign struggling against the weight of despair that seemed to hang in the air. Eric could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on him, each a reminder of near misses and unspeakable fears. He wiped his sweaty palms against his jeans, trying to blend into the tile floor that was covered in a thin layer of grime. The waitress's eyes were dark pools, filled with sorrow, reflecting stories of the lost. "Sit down, just sit down," she urged, her voice strained and shaky. "You're safe for now." The words were meant to comfort, but they only deepened the sense of dread that coiled around him. He took a booth near the counter, glancing furtively at the round tables where conversations had dropped to hushed whispers. "What happened?" The question broke through the silence, coming from a gaunt man with dirt-streaked hands and sunken eyes. Eric hesitated. I caught a ride with a driver. A truck. He was strange." The crowd tensed, leaning closer. The waitress's fingers trembled as she poured a cup of coffee, the scent was bitter and sharp. "Strange? You don't even know the half of it," the man replied, a shudder running through him. "You met him, didn't you? The one we call the collector." "Collector?" Eric's voice faltered. "He collects spirits, kid," a woman chimed in, her voice low and raspy. "Those who hitchhike, those who trust too easily. Drives them to their grave." The unease in the room thickened, every story, every warning created a tapestry woven from fear. Eric's heart raced as fragments of the driver's whispers washed over him. What if I'm next? What if he is still looking for me? Eric felt the weight of weighty gazes, all haunted by the depths of their experiences. You're not the first to escape, the waitress said, and her dark eyes sparkled with fear. But what you don't understand is that once you've been marked, you can't hide forever. Marked? The fear clawed at Eric as he felt the room seem to pulsate, alive with specters of those who had come before him. The kitchen door swung open with a creak, cutting through the charged atmosphere. A man in a dusty leather jacket stepped inside, a jolt of energy coursing through the crowd. His eyes were wide and panicked. Someone's outside. He shouted, pointing toward the fog-swallowed road. Eric stood frozen, dread creeping up his spine. Could it be him? Could it be the same driver hunting for another victim, whose laugh haunted his every thought? The chatter in the diner swelled into chaos, each face a mirror of his own terror. Stay back. Lock the doors. Someone cried as the storm of panic broke loose, people scrambling for safety. Eric's breath quickened as he approached the window, heart racing as he peered into the fog. He squinted, searching for any sign of movement in the suffocating gloom, desperate to prove that he was imagining things. Just then, headlights pierced the fog, illuminating the diner like a flash of lightning. The truck appeared, creeping slowly down the road, and Eric could see that crooked grin breaking through the fog, chilling him to his core. No! He screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the rising tumult inside the diner. As he turned towards the others, panic lighting their faces, doubt clawed at him. What if the driver was coming for him after all? Would he be forced to hell once more? Was escape truly possible, or were they all just waiting for the inevitable? In the haze of uncertainty, one thought loomed larger than anything. The night was far from over, and there were still secrets lurking in the shadows waiting to drag them all back. What if they couldn't escape him after all? The lights of the diner flickered again, like a heartbeat caught in a moment of panic. Eric's pulse raced in sync, thundering in his ears. The muffled roars of confusion began to dissolve into a haunting silence, each soul inside the diner held their breath in sheer terror. Get down! Get down! Someone screamed, diving under tables as if the shadowy figure outside could reach through the glass. Eric barely registered the chaos around him. All he saw was the headlights that grew brighter, consuming the diner's entrance. His chest felt tight, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the collector was free at last, ready to harvest another soul. Everyone, stay quiet. The waitress snapped, her voice cutting through the air like a sharp knife. She moved toward the door and peered through the smudged window, her expression twisting into one of deep uncertainty. Eric edged closer, a gnawing anxiety clawing at him, making him want to scream for clarity. Suddenly, the truck's engine stalled, a low rumble vibrating through the floor. The darkness outside swallowed the light again. A silence fell, thick and heavy, wrapping the diner in an eerie cocoon. All that remained was the sound of ragged breathing. What do we do? Eric whispered to the man beside him, whose face was ghostly pale, eyes reflecting the storm of confusion. Wait for him to leave, he might just be passing through, the man said, but there was a tremor in his words that contradicted the hope they tried to convey. Without warning, the truck door swung open with a sharp creak, revealing a shadowy figure stepping into the mist like a horror story come to life. The collector. Eric's throat tightened as he fought the urge to bolt, to run, to escape the inexorable grasp of this malevolent entity. Stay back! The waitress shouted, her voice trembling, rising above the sinking dread that enveloped them. You can't have any of us. Yet, as if mocking her defiance, the collector stepped closer, shrouded in layers of darkness. The air throbbed with palpable fear, heavy and thick. Eric caught a glimpse of a face, distorted but unmistakably twisted into a grin, eyes glinting with an insatiable hunger. Did I leave one of you behind? He crooned, the voice smooth as silk but laced with poison. I do hate an incomplete collection. Murmurs erupted, voices rising in a cacophony of fear. People turned to one another, eyes wide with panic. They were trapped. Eric's mind raced with frantic possibilities. How had he let himself be drawn into this? Dine and dash, Eric. Do it. Someone suddenly shouted, the urgency electrifying the air. The suggestion sent a surge through Eric. A rush of raw panic, fueled by desperation. It could be their only shot. But what would happen if they failed? What would the collector demand for their recklessness? Are you crazy? The woman next to him hissed. You can't make a run for it, he LLC. But then Eric felt a flicker of rebellion ignite in his chest. The fear couldn't chain him forever, could it? Just then, the lights flickered weakly, barely holding their ground against the growing presence looming outside. Time to decide, Eric, whispered a voice from within the crowd. It was the man with dirt streaking his hands. Face him here, or find the exit and embrace the unknown. The diners looked at him, all of them waiting for someone to lead the way. Each moment stretched, the air suffocating with tension. Eric felt the weight of their gazes, 1,000 souls pinned against the knife edge of choices. But behind that sinister smile, a shadow flickered, threatening to swallow them whole if they didn't act. Could they escape this darkness together, or would they become just another haunting tale of those who fell victim to the collector? A heartbeat passed, then a desperate plan began to take shape in Eric's mind. Follow me. He yelled, throwing caution to the wind. For better or for worse, this was their chance to find out what lay in the shadows, and if they could outrun the nightmare waiting for them. But as he rushed toward the door, the chilling realization struck him. The collector was all too aware of their movements. As the door creaked open, the spectral grip of fear lurking just behind them tightened, and Eric knew it wasn't merely their footsteps that echoed into the night. What would the night reveal to them if they dared to escape? The door groaned as Eric pushed it open, the chill of the night air rushing in like an icy wave. The shadow of the collector loomed at the diner's threshold, an ominous darkness writhing with intent. Eric's heart raced, the sound almost drowning out the gasps behind him. He darted into the night, adrenaline surging as he broke free from the stifling grip of the diner. Move, move. He shouted, signaling for the others to follow. But in the dim light outside, he could see faces frozen in horror, paralyzed by fear. 2 patrons hesitated, frozen in place, eyes wide and unblinking. Eric's mind screamed to them, don't look back. Just run. But the lingering pull of the collector's presence held them captive. Suddenly, with a twisted grin piercing the gloom, the collector stepped forward, his voice a low, menacing whisper. You think you can escape me? The road is my domain. One diner, a heavy-set man with a loud voice, shouted, we must stick together. We can't leave anyone behind. His words clawed at the air, full of desperation. No. Eric cried out, feeling a surge of urgency. We can't waste time. We have to go now. He glanced over his shoulder, the darkness seemed to pulse, almost hungry. The collector's laughter, cold and mocking, sent a shiver down his spine. With a push, Eric grabbed the closest diner, a trembling woman with wide eyes, urging her to flee. We need to get to the road. The asphalt shimmered ahead, a promise of safety or maybe just another trap. Wait. The waitress emerged from the shadows of the diner, her hand raised. We can't just run into the unknown. Eric shot her a look. What's your plan? Stand here and wait for him to take us one by one. The eerie silence evaporated, replaced by the sharp roar of the collector's voice, overflowing with menace. Time is running short, little mortals. I suggest you make your choice. The waitress's face paled as she clutched her apron. If we stick together, we can confuse him. We might have a chance. Together? Eric countered, timidity creeping into his voice. Or all together as his next collection. The words hung heavy in the air, settling like dust around them. Run. Eric thrust the woman forward, breaking the spell. The others began to follow, bolting into the night, fear propelling them onward. The sound of their footfalls mixed with the fading light of the diner behind them. As they sprinted towards the road, the shadows twisted and coiled like serpents, each footfall echoing the fear coursing through their veins. "Keep moving," he urged, his breath hitching as the collector's voice slithered through the air, sharp and taunting. "You think you can outrun me?" Eric cast a glance back, regretting the moment he slowed. The collector's figure seemed to stretch and shift in the fading light, every step echoing with the promise of doom. They finally reached the road, its vast emptiness a strange comfort. Eric paused to catch his breath, but the others continued to run in a frenzied panic. The roar of an engine filled the air as a car approached, headlights slicing through the darkness like a beacon of hope. "We can flag it down," he yelled, adrenaline surging again. But just as he raised his hand, the collector's voice broke through. "Another vehicle? Foolish mortals, you think I won't see?" The car veered to the side, and the driver's eyes widened in fear upon noticing the collector. Instead of stopping, the vehicle sped off, leaving them exposed. Panic surged anew in Eric's chest. "What do we do now?" The chorus of footsteps ceased as the group huddled together. The collector was almost upon them, darkness swirling with anticipation, each second feeling stretched into an eternity. Eric felt the heaviness of dread settle over them, a suffocating shroud. They were being hunted, just like prey. It was the way of the collector. So what now? Did they fight or accept the inevitable? But before they could decide, the ground began to tremble beneath them. A low growl rolled from the distant shadows, and something cold and sinister reached out, a hands of fate pulling them away from the light, drawing them near. Time hung suspended in the air, offering no hint of salvation. With a sudden chill running through him, Eric screamed, "Run! We can't let him claim us!" But just as they turned to escape, a flash of light obliterated the darkness. Someone's laughter echoed from the shadows, cruel and mocking. It was all or nothing now. With no plan left, Eric led them deeper into the unknown, desperation guiding their steps. What awaited them beyond the road's edge? Would they uncover a darker secret, something even the collector feared? The ground trembled beneath Eric's feet, a gnawing anxiety curling in the pit of his stomach. He felt as though the earth itself was angry, vibrating with a primal energy. The laughter from the shadows wrapped around him, suffocating, layering dread upon dread. "Keep moving," he barked, sensing the desperation pool behind him like a storm ready to break. The others shuffled forward, unsure and chaotic. Each of their breaths mingled with the cold air, fogging the night with a palpable fear. As they pressed on, the shadows began to twist into abstract shapes, darker and thicker with each step. The chilling laughter morphed into whispers, flowing like a river through the night. Words floated past Eric, half-formed and sinister. "You're not safe here, you're never safe. What is happening?" Someone cried out, a young man with wide eyes reflecting the streetlights. His voice shook as he glanced back, as if hoping for reassurance. "It's just the fear," Eric urged, trying to sound steadier than he felt. "Stay close. Don't look back." But the shadows beckoned, and fear was a smoke curling in their minds, drawing them thrall-like toward an unseen abyss. Ahead, the road stretched into nothingness, disappearing into the dark void. Suddenly, a flash of silver gleamed at the corner of Eric's eye. He looked, and in that fleeting moment, he caught sight of something moving beyond the woods lining the road, a figure, about the same height as the collector but shaped differently, long-limbed and hunched. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, catching the moon's beam like sharp knives searching for flesh. "What is that?" The waitress gasped, her voice shrill, cracking under fear. "Is it him?" I don't know," Eric stammered, a mix of dread and curiosity. The figure melted back into the darkness, leaving only the echo of a low, guttural sound that sent nausea rolling through Eric's gut. Behind him, a scream broke through the tension. The heavy-set man, who had argued for sticking together, fell to the ground, grappling with something unseen and invisible force that tugged at his legs like a hungry predator. "Help! Help me!" he cried, the desperation ripping through his lungs. Eric's heart raced wildly. "Run!" He yelled again, but it felt futile. The others hesitated, eyes darting between the man on the ground and the encroaching shadows. No. We can't leave him. Someone shouted, but Eric's mind whirred with the weight of reality. Leaving him could mean the lives of everyone else. It was a choice no one should have to make. A flash of lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the area for a fraction of a second. In that blink, Eric saw the trees sway violently, as if something unseen was thrashing about in a frantic dance. The decision hung like a blade between them. Erase this moment, Eric urged himself, feeling the pressure of unseen eyes watching. Don't let the collector have another. With a final heart-wrenching gasp, the heavy-set man disappeared into the ground, swallowed by the night. No. Someone screamed, their horror ringing in the air like a tolling bell. The last echoes of the man's cries mixed with the dark laughter, winding around Eric like chains. They were losing their composure, spiraling into panic. Forward, we need to keep moving. Eric shouted despite the lump in his throat. The ground beneath them felt alive, each step heavier, the shadows inching closer, flaring with a malevolent hunger. They stumbled onward, hearts pounding in unison. But as they pressed further down the road, they soon realized they were not alone. More silhouettes emerged around them, flickering like moths drawn to flame, faces twisted in torment, eyes wide with fear. What are these? A woman whimpered, clinging to the edge of Eric's arm. Eric swallowed hard, heart racing at the implications. Were they specters of the collector's previous victims? The realization bore down on him like the weight of the world. No matter what they say, don't listen. He called, steeling himself as the whispers began to entwine with their thoughts, chilling every breath. Just keep your eyes forward. You can't let them in. And in the depth of that desperation, with shadows dancing at their heels and the road uncurling towards something darker than despair, Eric felt uncertainty twist in his gut. Had they truly escaped the collector? Or was this just the beginning of a new horror? Somewhere, deeper in the unseen woods, laughter dark and inviting echoed back. What awaited them among the twisted shadows, and would they ever find the light again? The wind howled through the trees, a mournful cry that echoed the group's growing despair. Every scrape of bark, every whispering leaf was a reminder of what they were fleeing, what might still be chasing them. Eric. A ragged voice rasped, pulling him from his thoughts. It was the waitress, her face pale with terror. What if it comes for us? What if we don't make it? Focus on the road. He snapped, his own pulse hammering in his ears. Steeling himself, he forced his gaze straight ahead, where the asphalt blurred into a dark maw. But the shadows whispered, wrapping around him, feeding on his fear. They pressed on, the line between them blurring as panic threatened to swallow them whole. It was too long before their hastened footsteps were punctuated by another blood-curdling scream. A woman had tripped, falling to her knees, her hands tangled in the thickening shadows. Help! I can't get up. Something's pulling me. No! Eric shouted, instinctively reaching for her. But the grip of darkness was tightening, tangible and cold, dragging her back into its depths. Don't! Someone yelled, grasping at Eric's arm, but the decision was made in a heartbeat, survival instinct overwhelming compassion. We have to leave her. With each breath, the icy tendrils of despairing whispers climbed higher, wrapping around their throats. They stumbled forward, the screams fading into the night, replaced by that haunting laughter that had become an unwelcome anthem. Eric fought to contain the fear that clawed at his insides. What are we going to do? Another voice piped up, trembling more than the branches overhead. It was the young man, still wide-eyed but now desperate. We can't shut up. Eric shot back. Just keep moving. But as they advanced, the figures began to morph. The faces in the shadows twisted into familiar shapes, people they had lost, people they had loved. Each tortured visage twisted with unmet anger, grief, and an unsettling familiarity that gnawed at Eric's resolve. He felt bile rise in his throat, and he squeezed his eyes shut, trying to banish the memories. Keep looking forward. He urged, louder this time, as if his voice could drown the pain. They're not real. Hear us, Eric, a voice echoed, soft and inviting. It was sweet, like honey on a winter's day. It teased, tugging at his heart. Help us, you owe us no. Eric screamed, and at the sound of his voice, the shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anguish and despair that sent a chill through his bones. The solidity of the road began to feel like a lie beneath his feet. Lines wavered, colors faded, and he lost sight of where they were heading. Had they walked in circles? Was the darkness a live maze designed to ensnare them? The laughter morphed into a hideous symphony, wrapping them in chaos. Everyone, dig in. Focus. He shouted, clenching his fists. We have to find light. We can't let the dark take us. But doubt crept in, slipping like a cold finger along his spine. Eric squinted into the gloom, a weak beam of silver light flickered somewhere ahead, an oasis in the desert of shadows. Look. There's something. Let us go. He pointed, almost breathless with hope. Just beyond that flickering light, the air shimmered oddly, like heat rising from asphalt on a summer day. As they drew nearer, it solidified into a form, a figure standing at the edge, arms extended as if welcoming them home. Come to me. It called, the voice dripping with honeyed temptation. You won't be afraid anymore. His heart raced, a struggle igniting within him. Was it salvation? Or another trap? The figure's face emerged in sharp relief, and horror rippled through Eric as recognition struck. Stay back. He shouted, instinctively drawing the others away. It's but too late. The figure smiled, eyes glinting with malevolence. Welcome home, Eric. I've been waiting for you. Panic erupted among the group, hearts racing, footfalls hastening back into darkness. Eric dared a backward glance, the ghastly face splitting into a grin, shadows reaching out like fingers from a nether realm, and then, a blast of pain ripped through him, a searing sensation that spread with maddening speed. Had the collector returned? Did they ever truly escape? Eric stumbled, adrenaline flooding his veins as the road vanished behind him, swallowed whole, leaving nothing but silence, a silence thick with promise of worse to come. With the light flickering, shadows shifting, and that damned laughter building back up, he realized something. They were not running towards safety. They were being drawn closer into the waiting arms of darkness. What awaited them on the brink of that luminous edge? Would it be salvation, or their final demise? Eric's breath came in quick, shallow gasps, the ache in his chest nearly overwhelming any rational thought. He stumbled through the darkness, fighting against the pull of the shadows that seemed to reach for him, clawing at his sanity. We have to move now, he yelled, but the words barely left his lips before they were drowned out in a cacophony of chaos. As they staggered deeper into the woods, the forest had mutated into an alien landscape. Trees twisted grotesquely, their branches weaving together like skeletal hands grasping toward the sky. The very air around them felt charged with a dark energy, whispered secrets weaving through their minds, sowing seeds of dread and doubt. What were they running from? What would they become? Where'll we go? The young man cried, his voice trembling as if he might break apart. How do we fight that? He gestured toward the flickering light that now danced farther away. Each spark was becoming more distorted, flickering between hope and malice. Just follow my voice. Eric replied, desperation lacing his words as he pushed himself forward, forcing the others to keep pace. Each of them struggled to block out the taunts encircling their thoughts, but it was becoming harder as memories of their lost companions invaded their minds. What if we don't make it? The waitress whimpered beside him, her eyes wide with terror. Eric felt the weight of her fear press heavily against his own. They were all slipping, so close to crumbling apart. What if she doesn't want to stay behind? Her words felt like icy daggers. He squeezed his eyes shut for a brief moment, fighting to recall the faces they'd left in the darkness. They had made a choice. That choice was burdening him now like a lead blanket. Pushing ahead, Eric blinked back the tears that threatened to spill. We can't turn back, he grunted, gritting his teeth. We have to trust we're strong enough to get through this. He could hear the whispers clawing at his thoughts again, tugging on his heartstrings, and they were each falling into a trap of nostalgia laced with shame. Eric struggled to hold himself together, focusing on the flicker of light that now quivered like a candle caught in a storm. Suddenly, a sharp scream protruded through the haze, a sound so hollow and piercing, it made Eric's blood run cold. This time, it wasn't just the sound of a voice, it was the cry of anguish that echoed with a familiarity he couldn't shake off. It struck him like a physical blow and forced him to halt. Did you hear it? The young man whispered, shaking. It sounded like her. Shut up. Eric snarled, feeling his composure slip as he swung around. We can't get caught in this. But doubt tied knots in his stomach. What if it was her? He pictured her face, the way she had smiled in brighter days, and the laughter they shared before the darkness had taken everything from them. The giggling laughter returned, echoing around them like a twisted lullaby. Eric clenched his fists. We're stronger than this. As they forged onward, the ground about them morphed into a dreadful collage of memories. Every moment they had lost was reborn in those twisted roots, each one dragging them back. The shimmering light ahead began to dim, wavering like a flame that was refusing to be stifled by the gusty wind surrounding it. Get to the light. Eric shouted, a fire igniting in his chest. We have to push. But as they surged forward, pain lanced through him again, an even more intense wave this time, coursing from his core. He stumbled, feeling like a marionette with strings cut, his limbs twisting helplessly. And then he saw it, the dark form that had lingered at the edges. It stood there, shrouded in the gloom, a taunting specter of their sorrow. It spoke his name, curling around it with sickening satisfaction. Eric, come back to us. With a surge of rage, he fought against the shadows closing in. No. You're not real. He screamed, forcing his eyes to the light that beckoned from the distance, but there, as he clawed his way toward the luminescence, he sensed the truth beneath the chaos. The shadows were growing stronger, the light dimming, and there was nowhere else to run. What if the light wasn't salvation? What if it was the end? And as he reached for it with trembling hands, the light flickered once again, shifting into a face he knew too well, chilling his core. Would he dare cross that threshold, knowing what awaited him on the other side? Eric's heart pounded in time with the breaths he struggled to take. As he stared into the flickering light, it morphed again, revealing the contours of a face he hadn't seen in far too long. It was her. The mixture of longing and pain disarmed him, his resolve wavering like the light before him. Lila, he breathed, the name escaping his lips like a prayer, but her smile twisted into something grotesque, a reflection off the sharp edges of his despair. You've come back, Eric. Her voice was sweet yet sinister, wrapping around him like a noose, pulling him closer to the darkness. We've been waiting for you. No. He shouted, shaking his head violently. I can't. I want tea. The shadows thickened, swirling around his friends, whispering doubts louder. They were losing their fight, and he could see the fear in their eyes mirrored back at him. Eric looked at each of them. The young man, the waitress, both were trembling, their faces pale and stricken with terror. Eric felt the weight of his choices settle over him like a funeral shroud. He had to make them move. This isn't real. He yelled, scrambling backward, desperate to break the illusion. We can break this together. But with every word, the shadows pulled tighter. He focused on the light, still flickering like a candle in a gale. If he could reach it, maybe it could save them. Move. He barked at the others, his voice breaking through the fog of fear. Keep running. Don't look back. He dashed toward the light, pushing aside the memories beckoning him, the laughter, the warmth, the days before the shadows came. As he sprinted, he heard the waitress scream, her voice a breaking glass shattering the silence. Eric. It rang out as a thunderous cry of despair. He turned around, fear piercing him. The shadow had latched onto her, tendrils of darkness coiling around her legs, tugging her toward the abyss. No. He shouted, panic erupting in his chest. Fight it. Fight. As if responding to his pleas, the waitress struggled, her face etched with determination. Help me. Time stretched thin. Eric darted back, reaching for her hand, unwilling to let the darkness steal her away. But the shadows surged, clawing at his skin, each brush igniting flames of agony and despair. The pull of the darkness was relentless. Too close, this can't be how it ends. Hold on. He cried, gripping her wrist, pulling with all his strength. The light flickered ahead, a raw beacon of hope, but the malevolent laughter grew louder, drowning out their voices. Eric! The young man yelled, caught just behind them as another shadow lunged for him. Get to the light. Eric roared, rallying his own energy, pulling the waitress with a desperate resolve. Together now. With all their might, they tore past the shadows, a united front against the chaos, but it felt like running through molasses, each step weighted with doubt. As the forest closed in, light danced closer, illuminating their path. We're almost there. Sarah shouted, her strength renewing with every desperate step. Just a bit more. But the shadows roared back, furious at their defiance. Dark figures emerged with faces that mocked their fear, and a torrid wind whipped around them, dragging memories from the depths of their minds, faces that shouldn't be here. Faces of those they lost. Lila. He screamed, caught off guard by memory. He could feel it pulling at him as he hurled himself forward, the warmth of his friend's hand still grasped tightly in his own. The light widened ahead, it flickered dangerously, casting dark shades across their trembling bodies. Would their leap into the unknown mean salvation or complete ruin? In that heartbeat, Eric teetered on the precipice of the light, knowing full well that crossing meant risking everything. Do we take the leap? He thought, heart racing, uncertainty suffocating. This wasn't just about fleeing darkness anymore, it was about embracing whatever lay beyond, and as the shadows closed ranks behind them, he realized whatever haunted them wouldn't let go easily. What secrets lingered just outside the light? The light pulsated like a heartbeat, beckoning them closer, but Eric felt an icy grip of doubt seize his chest. Time seemed to stretch, dragging moments into eternity. He was balancing on the edge, teetering between life and something far worse. Trust me. He shouted, gripping Sarah's wrist tighter, feeling the warmth of her skin, a reminder of the reality he fought to preserve. The darkness churned behind them, each whisper morphing into pleads from those they once loved. Faces distorted in agony, reaching out, but Eric could not let this pull him in. Not again. Go. Eric yelled, gathering every ounce of courage he had left. He shoved forward, throwing himself and Sarah into the light that it felt like crashing through a veil. The world shifted, the shadows losing their grasp. Sarah screamed as they were pulled, fingers slipping from their enemy's clutch. With a final, desperate lunge, they broke through into the light, brightness engulfed them, a stark contrast to the obsidian tendrils clawing at their bodies. Eric's eyes stung from the sudden intensity. For a moment, they were weightless. Hope thrummed in his veins like a wildfire. They made it, but just as quickly, the ground returned, and they tumbled roughly onto a cold surface. Eric gasped, blinking rapidly to bring his surroundings into focus. They were no longer in the forest. They lay in a vast expanse of flat, barren land. The once oppressive shadows were now merely fog, gliding just beyond their reach, whispering curses and promises. What just happened? Sarah gasped beside him, her breath shaky. We made it, didn't we? I don't know, Eric stammered, scrambling to stand. He squinted into the distance, the fog swirling ominously around the shadows of distant trees. He could feel a cold dread pooling in his stomach. The landscape had a surreal quality, nothing felt real. Look! Shouted the young man as he appeared behind them, wide-eyed and breathless. He pointed ahead. A figure stumbled through the fog. Someone was coming toward them. As they drew nearer, Eric's heart sank. Lila, her form emerged as if conjured from the dark corners of his mind. high cheekbones accentuating her grief-stricken expression, the same smile twisting as it had before, but now it was laced with defeat. "You can't escape me, Eric," she declared, voice echoing unnaturally, resonating with resonance. "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" "No." Eric shouted, stepping back as memories crashed over him. There she was, the girl he loved, one stolen moment at a time. The endless nights piecing together the pain. He wanted to turn away, but the longing was a chain, binding him to her. "Come home," she whispered, a silken lure that threatened to drag him once more into the abyss. "No." Sarah cried, stepping in front of him, fiercely shaking her head. "You're not real. You're just a shadow, a reflection of what he lost." Lila's eyes narrowed, power swirling around her like the fog. "And you think you can keep him? He knows where he truly belongs. It's only a little further back." She waved a hand, and scenes transformed around them, flickering images of their previous lives, their laughter, their joy, the moments before despair took root. Eric felt the cool whisper of that old familiar darkness creeping into the edges of his awareness. The struggle was back on. Would he yield to the shadow's innocent facade, or would he fight for the light? "Eric, please!" Sarah yelled, grasping his arm, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't listen to her." What choice did he have? He felt lost, cornered by memories and reality. The boundaries blurred, and it was hard to remember who was real anymore, but then, a flicker of determination ignited in his heart. He had to make a choice. Let her go. He cried out, his voice branching through the somber mist. "This ends now." But Lila laughed, a sound more haunting than the shadows surrounding them. "You can't simply turn your back. It's never that easy, Eric." As Eric fought to free himself, knowing darkness remained woven into the fabric of his reality, a new, chilling thought took hold. What if the real choice was yet to come? What if the final battle lay not outside in the shadows, but deep within, waiting for him to fully confront what he had lost? And what lay beyond that daunting realization? Eric stared at Lila, the woman he had loved and lost. Her presence twisted hope and fear together like a violent storm. The fog thickened, swirling around them like a suffocating blanket. Deep down, he knew she wasn't just a mirage born from his mind. She was a conjured force from all the pain he had buried, something he couldn't just dismiss. But could he grapple with it? Could he accept the darkness entwined with those cherished memories? "Get out of my head!" Eric shouted, voice breaking as the memories fought to draw him in. Tension soared and snapped, echoing the shattering of fragile resolve. The young man clutched Sarah's arm, wide eyes darting between them. "Don't lose yourself," he urged, panic etched in his voice. "She's not real. We need to stand together." Lila's voice came low and silky, crushing any whisper of defiance. "You think they can save you, Eric? They can't free you from your own heart. You know where you belong." But Eric refused to surrender. "No. I won't trade my life for a past that's gone." His words came out ragged, raw with desperation. He took a step back, fighting the worm of doubt gnawing at his sanity. The figures around him, Sarah, the young man, were worth more than the binds of darkness. "Focus on me," Sarah shouted through the haze, grounding Eric as he turned to her, eyes burning with determination. "You're stronger than this. Remember why you're fighting." He locked eyes with her, and in that instant, the jumble of memories, specters, and doubts faded just enough for clarity to slip through. The image of Lila twisted again, petal soft in her pain, but Eric met it with steel resolve. "I'm not going anywhere with you," he declared, inching forward. He felt the magnetic pull of the past, but now it resembled a shackle instead of comfort. "It hurts to remember, but I won't allow it to drag me back down." Her laughter reverberated against the fog, echoing like a cruel jest. "It's a lonely path ahead, Eric. Don't you want to reunite? It'll be just like before." "No." Eric bellowed, the flame of rebellion surging in his chest. I choose to live. I will embrace the present in everything it holds. The air shimmered, vibrating with tension. The fog shrieked as shadows recoiled like skittish animals. Lila's face darkened, and with it, Eric felt a flicker of doubt that what he had chosen could lead only to despair. Leave them, Lila hissed, voice slithering through the mist like a serpent. They'll abandon you when you uncover your fate. Stop! Eric shouted, heart racing. The mocking laughter melted into the background, more shadows creeping forward, their forms threatening to merge with Lila. But now, he felt emboldened. He turned back to Sarah and the others, their fear morphing into undeniable unity. We band together or fall apart. We face this together. As the non-physical tendrils of memories grappled for control, Eric reached out toward his companions. Together. A waft of wind rushed around them. Eric grasped Sarah's hand, the warmth a tether to reality. The young man steadied his breath beside them, as if drawing fortitude from Eric's conviction. What lay ahead had to be faced together. The shadows shrieked, angry, pushing against their resolve. Lila's voice transformed into a shrill shout, "You'll never free him. You cannot escape the truth. This ends now." Eric howled, gesturing wildly as the strangling fog recoiled defiantly. "You're not the truth. You're a reflection of my worst fears." And in that moment, he paused, recollection flooding his thoughts not just of Lila, but of everyone he had lost. Their joys and laughter, their sorrows and pains, all colliding with the promise of life to come. "With every step forward, I choose hope," he declared, voice ringing out with conviction. As he let that fervor fuel them, the light returned, brighter and more emboldened than before. Together, they stepped toward that light, facing what lay ahead. The shadows slashed, screeching, but with each determined stride, they moved as one, weaving lives together, each strand intertwining in a tapestry of resilience against the darkness. And suddenly, clarity struck, a force unlike anything they had faced. Bursting through the chorus of lingering pain, they found themselves breaking free, erupting out of the oppressive night. They stumbled forward, the fog that held them hostage evaporating, revealing a new horizon. They stood on the other side, breathing the crisp air that tasted of fresh beginnings, the past slipping into a narrative they could carry forward. "Where are we?" the young man asked, eyes wide, scanning their surroundings. "Somewhere we've created together," Eric replied, fear and sorrow still there but no longer in charge. He turned to Sarah, gratitude filling his heart. "Thank you for standing with me." She nodded, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, yet filled with a dawning light. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. The weight of the past may never fully vanish, but together, they could redefine what lay ahead. As they moved cautiously into the new day, the shadows began to retreat into the recesses of their minds, quiet like fading echoes. Each step anchored them in the hope they fought for, a promise born not of escape, but of courage, love, and life. "So, what now?" the young man whispered, and there was a sense of strength in the air, a renewal that rushed forth like a tide. "Now, we choose to live," Eric replied, a grin breaking across his face, confident and bright. "Together." And as they walked into the embrace of the dawn, the nightmares faded, a distant memory washed away by the promise of new stories waiting to unfurl, but for those who tread that long, empty highway, the shadows lingered in echoes, reminder that somewhere between darkness and light, true strength is born from the courage to choose the path ahead. Don't forget, your journey is just starting too. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.